it's like we just kind of think, oh, they're a tech tool. And it's like they're not just a tech tool anymore.
Yeah.
They've got all of our information, and there's going to be loads and loads of small print that we're signing away about ourselves without even realizing. And with the emergence of deepfakes, I think that's really, really scary.
Welcome to The Meeting Room with me, James Lancaster. I'm delighted to be joined in the studio today by Gabby Austen-Browne, founder and director of Diversity Alliance. We're going to have a chat about AI and the ethical implications after a quick video from our sponsors.
This is the best show I've ever been to.
IMEX is a place for international relationships, connecting with all cultures from all over the world.
A taste of everything that the world has to offer under one roof.
It means connection, having fun as well, getting new inspiration and ideas.
Everything you would ever want as an exhibitor or supplier, I would highly recommend. It wouldn't be a show I'd ever want to miss.
Welcome to the studio, Gabby.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell us a bit about your job, who you are. Diversity Alliance has been going for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, kind of in some sort of guise since 2020. Nearly 5 years I've been doing this work in the industry. My background was in a variety of things, whether it's venue ops, event producing. So I've been in the industry for quite a while. But turned my hand to looking at how we can make workplaces and cultures more representative, inclusive and accessible, but also live events in their design, delivery and being really strategic around that as well. So that's kind of what we do at Diversity Alliance. And also in regards to practicing what I preach around accessibility, I'm just going to describe what I look like. So I'm wearing a navy blue dress today. I've got long dark hair. I'm wearing red lipstick, which is kind of my trademark, helps me feel a bit confident. And I've got brown skin, which is exceptionally tanned at the moment. I kind of look like I burnt my V10.
I think I should probably describe myself then.
Yes.
I'm a male, white, I'm wearing glasses, got a red t-shirt and a sort of navy-ish linen blazer and brown hair and brown eyes.
Yeah. I didn't say what colour my eyes were. They're also brown.
This is an interesting topic. It's actually AI Appreciation Day on Wednesday. So we're recording on July the 14th. So July the 16th is AI Appreciation Day. What are your general thoughts about AI? Are you an enthusiast or do you use it much?
Yeah. Do you know what? I do use it a lot. I think when you are either a freelancer, a solopreneur, or, you've got a small team, it's been so helpful with regards to productivity, managing my time, automating some of those tasks so I can actually focus on being creative within my business. So for me, that has been, a bit of a godsend. So I do really see the benefits of AI, definitely use it. And I think it's something that's really helpful within the meetings and events industry, again, so we can drive other much more exciting and innovative things forward. But I do think there's some pitfalls that we're kind of ignoring in our excitement around AI and the amount of time that we can save, or brain space or power that we can save. So I would say I'm more positive towards AI, but I'm definitely mindful of some of the negative potential aspects too.
I am generally a kind of optimist about new technology, but I think AI, there's something slightly elevated about it as a piece of technology. It doesn't quite fit the kind of, it does feel a little scary and has the potential, doesn't it, potentially to get out of control in some way.
Yeah, I think that is the scary part, and particularly as we're training these models. But we're not really, we're not really keeping a proper eye on what we're inputting and sharing and training. And
from an event perspective and event planning, I think you've got quite a few concerns around it, but what's your kind of main fear about how we're using it to plan events?
The thing that's probably keeping me up at night is the invisible kind of bias problem. I think we are all kind of aware the potential of bias creeping in if we're training, our AI tools, our models, our chatbots or whatever. But I don't know how seriously we're taking it. And the problem is when we are training these models with bias, we're using it to help us make so many decisions, aren't we? We're like looking at it for speaker selection, supplier, vendor selection, genders, content creation, content marketing, either making the decisions for us due to lack of time or helping us to make decisions. But if historically data that's been inputted is coming from a biased place, then also the output is going to be potentially biased. Of course, there are ways around it, but I feel like we're moving so fast. It's almost like a runaway train. We've adopted it so quickly and taken it on board, and we're really excited to be using it and seeing the power and the magic of it in some instances, that we're forgetting like the impacts that it can have on everyday people, on society, on individuals, on our safety even, and the safety of our colleagues and communities and families and things like that as well. So that's the thing that's keeping me up at night.
It's difficult to see how you can get around that, isn't it? Because the more people use a system that's based on data, if they use it for something else, and that itself goes back into the internet, then it's a circle that's difficult to break, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And that is my fear. So we have to be really intentional about why we're using it, how we're using it, and how we're training it. And, this is almost like not one job done, but if we set it up right in the first place, it's going to save us a world of issues in the future. And there are challenges. I mean, there was an Amazon scandal where it used AI for recruitment. So it built a recruitment tool, and it had been trained on like historical data which discriminated against women. And of course, then once it had gone live, what was it doing in the recruitment? It was discriminated against women. So obviously that's a huge thing, and we're probably doing that on quite maybe a smaller scale in our own organisations without even realising it.
What other problems do you see around AI?
Consent. It's been really exciting and interesting going to events over the past year or so and seeing how AI is being used to help engage us, but also help us kind of collect the information that we want to, that's important to us from an event, or pick on things that we might have missed at an event because we can't attend every talk, every session, etc., etc. So I've liked seeing, how sessions have been transcribed, and then you get a nice output of a bit of PDF kind of brochure of what the key takeaways were or whatever that is. I love that. It's great that we can find out images of us at the events now, but where's our consent? Who's that? I know we're ticking our consent on the form that, any images or whatever of us are going to be used, but do we really realise what that consent is? We're collecting voice data, facial recognition, we're auto-transcribing a lot of things, but we don't know where that data is going and what is happening to it, including in those instances, but also in the tools that we're using. Like, they're all great, and they're all really helpful to use, and whether they're based on AI or using AI as part of their product and service, it's like we just kind of think, oh, they're a tech tool. And it's like they're not just a tech tool anymore. They've got all of our information, and there's going to be loads and loads of small print that we're signing away about ourselves without even realising. And with the emergence of deepfakes, I think that's really, really scary.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's not only capturing data, it's also attributing ideas and quotes to individuals. And if it gets that wrong,
that's
which is not
true.
Perfect, so it can get it wrong. So
can get it wrong, gets it wrong all the time. I remember I used one for a workshop, used AI for a workshop just to create a diagram for me. And I didn't double check my work, and then I put it up on the screen. I was like, oh, that's really wrong. And I had to explain why it was wrong and what I did. And so that was like tiny bit embarrassing, but there could be really big implications around what you're saying if we're misrepresented or anything like that.
Just to go back to bias and sort of speaker selection and that issue, is there a way around it? How would you tackle that problem? How would you sort of prevent yourself from falling into that trap, I guess?
Luckily, I was thinking about this quite a lot over the past sort of year or so, and I recently delivered a session actually with an AI specialist kind of on this exact topic. It was the ICA AES seminar. And I was like, if you're going to be using AI, we need to make sure that we're training it right, and we're being really ethical about that. So we went through a whole session looking at the practicalities of what we can do. And, and it's not super difficult. It is a case of kind of auditing the tools that you're using, understanding what the small print is in regards to that, and actually kind of holding those tools and suppliers accountable in relation to how the data is used and making sure that as much as possible we're considering bias in that. But then also it's how we're adding our organisational values. And how we are, what we should be doing really is training our models on our organisational values and also on our DEI policies, and also what our goals are and strategies are around people. And once we train the model around that, it starts to understand, okay, this is what's important to this organisation, these are their values, this is where they're really looking to make a difference with regards to people, planet, all that sort of thing, communities, and so therefore our output's going to be in relation to that. Of course, that's not perfect. This is like a tiny kind of, I guess, solution, and I'm guessing we're going to be able to build on that, but I think that's a really good start. If you're going to be using a chatbot, training a chatbot, creating a little tool, start by putting in your values, your policies, and your DEI strategies in there.
So that's for organisations who are building their own in-house bit of AI. If you're an event planner using just something like ChatGPT, are there things you can ask it that creates a more inclusive outcome, or is it not that clever yet?
Yeah, no, I think it is. If you're using free models, obviously that's like a bit open sourcey, so you'll be getting all sorts of feedback and information from that. It's very different if you're using a paid version, you create your own chatbots and projects, because it is going to be based on obviously what you're inputting. But if it's out in the big wide world, you can ask those questions like, I want to ensure, that I'm targeting underrepresented groups, and by this I mean blah blah blah. These not blah blah blah. People are not blah blah blahs, but you know what I mean. I want to make sure that I'm thinking about all of these things. How do I go about that? How do I consider that? What should I be doing? So asking, as you're saying, the right questions. How do I make this more inclusive? What's the type of data or information I should be collecting to understand whether people feel more represented or belonging? So you have to do a little bit of research for yourself, I guess, initially. And I guess in that conversation, it's learning what's important to you and what you're thinking about, and is able to pull that information. So you can do it on the free kind of models, but I recommend using paid because there's less option for outside. And also the thing is, we don't challenge AI enough, because I think, and I can't bear the man, I don't know if you have to edit this out, but obviously Elon Musk, can't bear him. But what he was saying about Grok, as you brought up in the beginning, was it's trying to please us too much. It's been too agreeable with us at the moment, and that's why it all went a bit belly up or whatever the other day. And that's true, because I'm sure we notice it ourselves when we start kind of requesting tasks, and it kind of gives us what it thinks we want. And then you're like, well, no, I want to delve a bit deeper into that, and I also want to understand the challenges around that. So I also think we need to get better at challenging our AI.
As you've been mentioning, AI has made sort of quite big inroads into event tech already. Some of it's obvious, and some of it's quite sort of, you know about it when you're going into an event, or either as a delegate or an organizer. Is it being used in more other sort of surreptitious ways that we're not aware of?
I think it's definitely being used in ways that we're not aware of. We think, it's just taking our picture, it's just recording this information, this voice, but then that information is being used for something else that we don't know what it's being used for, right? But then if we're thinking about something more specific from events, which I know there's been a big challenge around in the EU, I think, actually, I can't remember the name of the platform at all. And there's a few around, I think, but essentially it was about measuring attendee sentiments or emotions in a session, but without disclosing that that's what they were doing. So they can use that information, obviously, later on. There's a big lawsuit around it at the moment, so I can't remember the name of the platform, it's gone. But something like that, I feel I get it, but it also feels a little bit dark. I'm like, I could be going through any sort of emotion or have any sort of issues or things happening at home, and could be thinking anything. I might not be listening to the session, and you're also just like analysing how I'm thinking in relation to that and using that information potentially. And it's not about, it's what it's going to be using the information for. Not just like, we create a better experience. It's more like, how can we manipulate?
What strikes me as interesting about that is we take it as read that this stuff actually works, and that you can judge people's emotions by their facial expressions. And I'm not entirely sure you can. Yeah. I mean, obviously, if lots of people are smiling and kind of laughing and whatever, then that you would imagine that's a positive emotion. But if you're listening to a sort of white paper discussion or a panel discussion, what does engage look like? I'm not entirely sure.
Unless it's like monitoring micro
sort of eye flicker movements and all this kind of stuff. Yeah.
I mean, my face usually gives away quite a lot, so I'm not very good at hiding what I'm thinking. The frown comes in or the eyebrow raises. But otherwise, as you said, with a lot of people, that wouldn't necessarily be the case.
And
So
a lot
yeah,
of
you're
people,
right.
I'm thinking sort of people who are neurodivergent
Yeah,
often mask
exactly.
completely, don't they? But like you say, it's where there is something slightly icky about it
Yeah,
that I can't
that's
put my
exactly
finger
it.
on.
And I can't either.
We're all struggling to articulate this kind of slightly uncomfortable aspect of our AI, but I think we're finding it difficult to come up with anything concrete
Until it hits the fan. And then we're like, we knew it.
We're talking about consent around these issues like facial recognition, because the law is a bit vague on it, isn't it? I don't think in the UK, for example, there are any specific laws about AI.
No, I don't think there is either, other than our GDPR, obviously.
Yeah.
And that's around biometric data and consent and being really explicit about collecting that and what we're going to be doing with that data. It's part of like the UK Data Protection Act. But I know in the Europe, if an organisation knows that it's doing some risky kind of stuff with its AI and what it's developing, it has to log every activity that is happening with that AI, which I think is going to be really important.
I think emotion is all, I think it's banned under EU law.
Yeah, it is. In like education settings.
Which would be a conference, would it? I suppose.
Yeah, I think it would be as well. It would be. Unless it's like for medical purposes or something like that. I think it's blanket banned, which is good. And also in Denmark, and I think this should be across the board, users can now opt out of having any of their data or information used, their voice, likeness, etc., etc. They can opt out of that. And obviously, if it is then used, big lawsuit would be happening. So I think that's something that we all should be able to do and be protected by.
Yeah. From an organiser's perspective, they might say, hang on, this is really useful information, though, we can be harvesting to make our next event better and better and better. Do you think most people, given the choice, would choose to opt out of all this stuff? Or do you think we've got to a stage now where people are kind of just happy to share their data?
I think we've all just got too bored and too busy, in all honesty. I mean, how many people, I know other phones exist, smartphones exist, but when you get your user agreement from Apple, you buy a new laptop and there's like 20 odd pages, everyone just ticks agree. Like everyone just ticks yes nowadays to consent most of the time. So I don't think that's a really good measure or read on what people really think or feel, which is why I think we need to be really good at communicating why we're collecting this data. Because if it is for good reasons, which generally, hopefully within our industry it is, if it is for good purposes to ensure experiences are better for people, then why would we not share that? So I think it's about also communicating that to our stakeholders as well. Again, though, it goes back to the platforms that we're using. It doesn't matter if from our perspective, we're only going to be using the data for this, but the platform's got its own privacy policy with, the organisation that says, but we're going to use the data you're collecting for this. So there's still that challenge, which means the organisations need to really look at these policies of the platforms and things that they're using and speak to those developers or those companies and go, how can we mitigate this? Or does this really need to be in our, part of our agreement or policy? We would like to remove it so the data can't be used.
You're really interested in inclusivity and creating equitable spaces both in the workplace and in event. Is it positive or generally negative?
I know there are definitely brilliant AI tools out there. I'm sure some event organisations would be using those sort of things, like Voice app, which is great for people with speech impairments, so that they can obviously communicate what they want to say in a professional or an event environment, or any environment actually. I think there's a Seeing AI as well. Again, it's using smartphone and like image recognition technology to relate to somebody who's visually impaired or blind, what is in front of them. So if these are included in an event experience for somebody, it means that you can get more people attending an event and better able to participate. I think we're using it very much for productivity at the moment, agendas, content marketing, that some data analysis and things like that, and not necessarily thinking about it from what other tools are out there that people who need them might want to use that would really help them attend and get the best experience out of our events.
Is there a danger with AI that, like you said, you mentioned this word lazy a couple of times, but is there a danger that the benefits of it are so great in terms of productivity that people sort of just don't care about the outcomes in terms of inclusivity?
I do. That's one of my fears actually, is that it's because the productivity and the ease and the saving of time, and actually even be able to grow and expand on our own ideas can be really seductive, I guess. And when we get, I guess with a new tool as well, we get excited, don't we? We're like, how can I use it for me? Whatever sort of tool, whether it's a new piece of sports equipment or whatever, it's like, how's it going to benefit me and make me better at what I'm doing? And I guess that individualist kind of thinking is what's going to be driving us initially. And so therefore, I think it's not going to be top of our agenda to be thinking about inclusivity. But that kind of makes me sad. And I think that's also something that is going to potentially cause problems later, because if we get it right now, it's going to make everything so much easier in the future when it comes to, I mean, say if we do actually have to, new governments come in or whatever, we do have to start measuring things, measuring people data and sharing people data. And then we have to go back and retrofit all of these questions and processes and systems and stuff. Why can't we grow it both at the same time? Think about belonging, representation, social justice, community, sustainability, social impact, all of that sort of stuff alongside of this creation as we're creating it, you know?
One argument is that with AI, the productivity gains will free up time for other stuff. That's quite a positive, optimistic take on human nature, I think.
Yeah.
It will.
Just fill it with something else,
Just
don't
fill
we?
it with somebody else. That's the danger, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, the danger would be, well, you know, mow the lawn or watch the test match or something.
Yeah.
And it won't necessarily be, oh, I've put all this extra time into productivity. Owner managers of businesses they may see much greater potential to be creative whilst the mundane stuff's been taken care of.
Yeah.
But if you're sat in an office,
I don't want to think the worst of human beings, but you know, if we can, I guess, give ourselves more headspace or more downtime, we do need it, then I guess we are going to take it. But I just think it's a missed opportunity if we don't think about this stuff from the beginning. And I think it will come from the top, and it will come from the suppliers that we work with and how we partner with our AI suppliers and tool suppliers, how we partner with them to get them to help us, because it's really difficult when we have to think about all this stuff. So who else can we bring? What experts can we bring in? You know, to make it all a little bit lighter and a bit easier, and collaborate and co-create on that. So we're not an individual sitting there on a laptop going, blimey, how am I going to make sure, that we're going to get these people attending up it or whatever it is.
and that's a good point as well about leadership, isn't it? So if you've got a team of people who maybe feel as though, you know, using AI is going to threaten their job in some way, it's about reimagining their job, isn't it? It's about saying, okay, well, listen, it's not going to take your job away. It means you now have more time to do something enjoyable rather than mundane. So like I said, it's got to come from the top, hasn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does have to come from the top. And then, but also I think there's a great opportunity with those companies that still have them, which I think majority do in the UK, is, you know, your employee resource groups, those DEI committees. This should be part of the conversation now within those groups, so they can start collecting this information, listing their ideas, concerns, things around best practice and AI and ethical usage, and start creating some resources internally for the teams, I think. I think there's that. So we want leadership to care, and then utilise the people within the organisation as well, who's kind of focusing on that to help the rest of the company as well.
Just generally, is DEI in a good place right now?
Well, I don't tend to call it DEI as much now, because I feel like it definitely does have, can be quite divisive. I think the term diversity specifically, because, you know, people just generally think of underrepresented groups, which is kind of how it started, but that's because of kind of how it needed to start. I like to talk more about representation of all people. Inclusion, I don't see that inclusion is a bad thing ever. Accessibility, you know, every country has a legislation around accessibility now. So for me, not really, you know. I think it's been more of a bit of a change of language. Everyone's kind of going a bit like wink, wink to me.
Right.
So I'm like, we're going to call it this. But
Okay.
you're doing the same thing. So
That's interesting,
you know,
isn't it? Yeah.
it is. And I think the ones who weren't super interested or didn't care that much in the first place weren't going to move forward anyway at this stage. So then the people who are still interested and cared, just find another way to move through it.
Are jobs at risk from AI, do you think? Is there kind of some ethical implication there? Should we be using it as much as we are? Should we be thinking about human resource and, you know, the best way to to keep people happy? Because after all, having a job is important for people, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you have those kind of like doomsday conversations, don't you, on those other podcasts we won't name, around how, they have to bring in a universal basic income because people won't be able to work. And just imagine everyone's sitting at home like that film Wall-E. Is it Wall-E? When you just got people with the masks on kind of watching VR or something and munching and they're too big to move from their seats. I don't think that's going to happen. We've been through this process so many times, different revolutions, industrial revolution, all that sort of thing. And yes, jobs might change or jobs might disappear. But I think what's great about meetings and events is they're uniquely human. And yes, we can use AI for data collection, logistics, productivity, things to make things a little bit easier and quicker. But ultimately, when we're on site, it's those human connections, it's authentic relationship building, it's empathy, it's in the moment, on-site problem solving, which I don't think AI is going to be able to do. So I think if we double down more on our human skills and our humanity, as I said, emotional intelligence, cultural competency, empathy, building those relationships with each other, I think, that we'll be okay. So I just think things will slightly change a little bit, but I don't think there'll be huge job losses, I hope. Fingers crossed. Everything evolves, doesn't it? It might not be in the way we think, so it's hard to predict, but I don't think we should be scared about it. We should look at it as an exciting challenge and an opportunity to get creative with our jobs. Like, how can I make myself indispensable? And I don't mean that in a really capitalist-like way, because I don't believe in that, but it's true. It's like, well, how can I do what I'm doing now and use AI to make it more creative, more interesting for me, but also more beneficial for the work and the other stakeholders as well? That's a really exciting opportunity to me. So I think there's ways around it for people that want to, but there's always people who are going to be steadfast and maybe not stuck in the past. Well, yeah, a little bit stuck in the past and are scared of moving forward and change. And unfortunately, that might be a challenge for those people, but there's nothing we can do about that, really.
No, I don't think it'll have a huge impact on the jobs market. I think there may be some entry-level jobs, but they'll change in nature. I think there'll always be more growth. There'll always a new opportunity for growth.
Yeah.
And that will inevitably come back to us as human beings. That's my sort of hunch.
Yes.
But who
same.
knows? Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed the chat.